Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of What SHU Doing. I am Aaron Burrell alongside my co-host Paul Guarino.
What's up, everybody?
We are joined by an illustrious guest, Nicole Granito. Nicole, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, doing good. We have an exciting show. Nicole, to start, why don't you let people know where you're from and why Sacred Heart?
I'm from Jersey. Let's just start there.
North, South, Central?
Central, which does exist.
Oh.
Hot take.
Show everybody where it is.
Right before, didn't you say North?
No.
Oh, okay, Central.
Central.
All right, Central.
Central Jersey. I found Sacred Heart. I played field hockey on the D1 team here. And so I was looking at a bunch of different colleges and seeing like where I could get recruited for and what would make the most sense in terms of travel and the distance. I knew I wanted to go away. And I didn't want it to be like a plane ride away. So when we looked around, we looked at Fairfield, looked at Quinnipiac. And when we came to Sacred Heart, they were still building Linda's, which was not open fully, but they were almost done. And walking around the campus, I was like, oh, this is really nice. Like I could really see myself here. And when you're a 17, 18-year-old kid, you have no idea what you're even looking at.
Yeah.
And your parents are trying to help you and guide you in like the most
Parental
kind way.
Yes.
Instead of like trying to force you to go somewhere. And so we walked around and even like my mom was like, this is so nice. Like she kind of felt comfortable and we met the coach and I did a couple of camps and different field hockey events where Sacred Heart was. And ultimately they offered me a scholarship to play here and I was so excited. And so that's where I ended up at Sacred Heart. I did 4 years here and then I did my grad year right after. If everybody has the chance to do it, you're not going to go back. So just do it.
Yeah. That's why I did
Just do all 5 or 6 if you're doing 2-year for grad school. Just do it right away because you will not go back. Even thinking about it, if I didn't, I would have never gotten my master's degree.
Yeah.
There's no way I would be able to sit down and open a book and do homework.
Yes.
So I'm very glad that I went through with it and just stuck it out for the extra year, which was really great. But yeah, that's where I started.
I hear you. The concept of homework right now sounds like crazy.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah.
My brother goes here now. Shout out Ryan. He's doing physical therapy in the 3+3 program. Kid is a genius. And he's in his second year. And so his second year of grad school, which is wild.
It's terrible, yeah.
It's crazy.
Not terrible. Tough.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. Yes. And so next year he starts doing clinicals and he's already he's going to Guatemala and doing the trip and everything. And when he decided to come here, I was so excited. I felt like the parent, like, oh my gosh, he picked a school. Like, I got all my SHU stuff back, and I would show up to like the homecoming games and alumni weekend, and I would be so excited. We'd all be decked out in like full on. I don't even think I had that much SHU gear when I went here. And then when my brother came here, I was like, I need everything. I need hat, scarf, gloves. I need a jacket. I need sweatpants. Like I need the whole 9 yards. And so we were so excited when my brother decided to come here because now we come back. Every time we come back here, there's a new building.
It's crazy.
They are constantly building, and it is wild. I don't even recognize half of it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, every time we come up here, we're like, this is where you go to school?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
It's Hogwarts over there.
Up there. Crazy. It is crazy. In every new building, we're like, do kids live there? Is this another like athletic build? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But it's so awesome to come back and see how big it has become.
Yeah.
Because even when I think we were the largest at the time, the largest incoming freshman class.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And there were, I don't know, I could be making this up, like 8,000, let's just say. But by the time we graduated, there was like an incoming class of like 10,000, which to us was absurd. And all the buildings just seemed to be getting smaller and smaller because there were so many more people here.
Yeah.
And it was incredible to see the growth, even from being here for a couple years, of the amount of people that now know Sacred Heart and where everybody comes from was so, so cool. So now coming back, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah, even like my grad year was 2015, so it was like we were half in the old buildings and half into this building. So it was crazy to see. So did you get to use this building or not?
Yep. My sophomore year, I think, or spring of my sophomore year, because we were still in the old building. I had my first year, I had Professor Golda's class in there with the giant green screen that was like all on the wall. And it was a wild setup. And I remember when they were building this, I'm like, God, I really hope I get to use this building because everything was state of the art. And of course, they show you all the pictures and the studio and the control rooms and everything. And at that point, I was like, I have to do another year, like especially if I wasn't going to be able to use it when I was here. So I was so excited.
I feel like you ran everything in here at one point in time, like at one point in time. Because I know I used to come back and I would do, especially like right after I finished, I was doing stand-ups. I was doing like my own, like I was doing the My Wise News. You and I were working on that. And you would come and run the board for me. You would help me get that all up.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
All of that.
They teach you so much here. And I'm so grateful for this building and for the professors and everybody because you really get a good feel of part of the real world with the technology and the board and being able to direct a show which I was very bossy. I'm much better now, but back in the day I was like didn't know what I was doing, but it's fine. We had a little bit of a learning curve, as did everybody, but to be able to like sit in that chair as a junior or senior was crazy because there was only things you thought about, like, oh, outside of here, like once I graduate I want to be able to do this and that, and then you're able to sit in the chair while you're still here, and that was really cool to get that hands-on experience.
It's crazy because we had Manny Sanchez on a couple weeks ago, and
Yes.
similar, obviously the three of us all were at NBC at similar times, stuff like that, but I distinctly remember a time when you had, maybe you were like a year or two into being hired, and you were directing and running the board. I want to say on PFT. Yes.
I love that.
And I was in the digital newsroom, and you would come out, and you were like, I just directed Pro Football Talk, and I was like, have you been here for like?
I almost cried.
Yes.
I'm not even kidding you. The first time that I ever did that show, I walked out of there and I almost cried.
Wait, why?
Because I was so happy that like they let me do that, first of all.
Yeah.
Because I think when I went full-time there, 22, 23.
Yeah.
I mean, I interned there a bunch. Did a couple of Olympics. I was in digital for a long time.
Yeah.
And when I was in digital is when I met Kristen Coleman.
Yes.
Which she's the best.
Yeah.
And she taught me everything about the board and switching and directing and so much because she is her own like Swiss Army knife. She could do everything. And I remember being like, I want to be just like her. Like, it's just like a little, like your role model, but like you're almost an adult now where it's like you still have that. But yes, she was it for me. And she taught me everything. And the first day she let me do the whole show, I was just like shocked. Like the pure adrenaline rush. And you're sitting there and you have to be so focused. And it's not brain surgery, so you're going to mess up and it's going to happen and you have to just accept it and move on because it's live TV. So you don't have time to be like, let's roll that back and let me do it again. Like, no, this is live. So you don't have the chance to do that. And when I walked out of that room, I remember just standing there like, first of all, I have to call my parents and tell them what I just did. But the fact that they let like a 23-year-old kid, I still think I'm a kid, 28 years old. Like a kid do a show like that is insane. And after that, I was like, I have to do this. I have to do this.
I feel like you got a lot of experience after that, just like running different shows.
Yes, for sure. Because the one thing that I will say after you graduate here, starting full time as an adult at a real job is a little bit of whiplash. And you don't really know what to expect. Everybody says like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so fun. Like, it's going to be great. You're going to love it. Like, you finally got a real job. Like, so proud of you. Like, yes, that is all great. Celebrate it. Go out for dinner. Have a nice time. But when you start that job, it is a little bit of a reality check, especially with the pay. I'm going to say that right now. The pay. Do not overlook that.
We could talk money.
We should. Because when I got to NBC as a PA, this is years ago, at the time, I think I was making like $15 or $16 an hour. And the PAs are incredible because they do everything. Everything. Like, you will learn so much. And yes, that is, you start at the bottom. But that is how you learn. And you have to just like keep an open mind. You're going to sacrifice a ton. I missed out on birthdays. I missed out on trips. I missed out on holidays. I missed out on a lot. And when you're just graduating college, you see all your friends have these great 9-to-5 gigs, Monday through Friday. Oh my God, we're doing this weekend. Right. We're going here. I have a week off between Christmas and New Year's because my company is closed. Oh my, that's great.
Yeah.
If you're in television, we all know that that's not how it works. Yeah. Boxing Day was one of the days that I got the privilege of working. and a 6 a.m. Premier League shift in digital, which was lovely. And you just aren't really prepared for that because you have this notion in your head of like seeing all the TV that goes on and like, oh, I bet their shift is 8 to 4 or 9 to 5. And it is
not at all.
100% not. You are not going to sleep. You're going to work a lot, but you're going to learn so much where you have to just kind of like suck it up and learn it and know your stuff and not just yes people to death. You have to ask questions because nothing, I feel like, irked the producers more when you just yes them, being like, yep, got it, so that they would stop asking you for stuff. And then you actually don't have it. And when they go to ask you, they get pissed. And you're kind of like, I should really think about this the next time I want to answer so quickly. And just say, yes, I have it. Because the one word that I just adapted with my whole soul was the word efforting. And that was my best friend, that word. Because when you're in the middle of a show and they're just throwing things at you. Guarino, we have this. Guarino, we need this on Font 2. We need this. We have this topic bar. We have that. Efforting. Because I'm getting there. I'm going to get it. It's going to take me a second.
Yeah.
But we're going to effort it. And if I don't get it, I tried. I efforted my best, but I didn't get it. And it almost gives them more of like, all right, she's working on something back there. Like, we're getting there.
Yeah.
And if at the end of the day I don't have it, okay, I tried.
Yeah.
But to yes them to death was like a little tough because, and I learned the hard way, because the minute you tell them that you got it and then they go to it and it's not there, you already know what happened.
Oh, I know.
Because me and AB were in a very similar situation with graphics.
Yes. I was going to ask, what was that moment like for you? Because
it is mine. Pure panic where you just, my body just shut down.
Yeah.
And
it's
you
like a
freeze.
Cold, yes.
You have no idea what to say. You are literally speechless.
Yeah.
And my heart just like sank into my stomach because you know you messed up. And now you're in a full control room of 15 people.
Yes.
And they're all veterans of the industry. People that we work with at NBC are incredible. They're the most talented people I've ever worked with in my life. You learn so much from them and they know exactly what they're doing. Everybody that comes in does their job and they do it so well that you just want to be like everybody else. You want to fit in. That's the ultimate goal, is that you just have to carry your own weight.
Yes.
And the day that you say you have something and you don't, and they scream at you, I guarantee you will never say that again.
And you'll never forget it.
And you will never forget it.
You never forget where you were that moment.
Correct.
How it felt.
Those numbers of the Chiron are ingrained in my brain. I could call up a shell right now if you told me.
That's so crazy.
A full screen shell, so I could call it up right now. Because you never forget those.
Yes.
And it's really hard because you don't want to let everybody down. It's very similar to being on a team. Like, you were on the soccer team, and so coming from the field hockey team, and that is really drilled within you. Like, you need to be a team player, you need to help, you need to know your place, and that translated really well into TV for me because it was such a team effort, and everybody had to do their part in order for it to be great. And so that was what really drew me in from the beginning. Was like, oh, it's like playing on the field hockey field. Like, I could do this. But you really have to learn and you have to find your voice. Because when I first started doing graphics, they put me on NASCAR, which honestly, I loved. Don't sleep on NASCAR, everybody. Everyone thinks they're just running around, racing around for 500 laps. I tell you, the last 20 or so laps of that race is the most entertaining laps ever.
I want to give our viewers a little backstory into this as well. Because I feel like when we were at NBC, and I specifically was cutting highlights for NASCAR.
Yes.
I used to always say, like, I got to cut highlights for NASCAR. Like, what is a highlight to NASCAR? You know what I mean? Like, other than the final finish, what is a highlight? But you'd be like, no, the last 20, it's exciting. You'd be like, there's crashes, there's the green flag.
Yep. The restarts. Yes, when they have to come in and do the tire change, and they have all these different parts of the race that when you don't work in it, you have no idea. And I thought that way too. I said, how do people sit and watch this for 3 hours?
I still ask that. This is
crazy. And then you do the graphics and you're like, oh my God, this is so, oh my God, Denny Hamlin is moving into second. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy. Joey Logano's coming in first. Like, you're just
going
all over the place, where it gets the adrenaline going. Okay. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is actually really cool. This is a good sport. I did NASCAR America.
Wow.
That was my first ever. And Zaz trained me.
Wow.
Jamie Zaslav, wonderful, wonderful human being. He was amazing. And he trained me on the show. And to the point where, like, I started to feel comfortable. But when you first call graphics, you're like, font 1, 32 is good. And, like, the operator's like, what?
Yes.
What? Can you speak up? Like,
right.
And I'm sitting there like, is this right? Is this right? I don't know. You second guess yourself. And then every graphic, yes. I'm like, oh my, okay, checking, like, every single letter to make sure my topic bar is spelled correctly. And even though it's gone through 47 different checks,
yes.
You just have that fear the minute it goes out. You're like, was this right? Is this good? Is this good? Is this good? And so you just gain the confidence the more shows that they put you on. And eventually you start to find your voice and you start to be like, okay, this is good, this is not. And now you start directing in your own little area, which is what I loved. I'm one of the crazy people that people still tell me to this day. I love graphics. I loved it. I love doing it.
Wow. Which
is unheard of because people will say, you're a psychopath.
Yeah.
Nobody likes graphics because all you do is get yelled at all show.
And if you do your job, no one congratulates you for it.
Correct.
They're just like,
it's expected.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
You had a perfect show. That's good.
Yeah.
That's what you should do every single show.
You have to be perfect.
Yeah, you don't want to become a Twitter meme.
Correct.
How'd that happen?
Because I had no.
Of course it happened, AB.
No, more so of like I had my producer would send us a screenshot of a graphic that was on a different channel and that would have a spelling error or something and he would just screenshot it and send us in an email. Yeah. No caption, no nothing. The subject line would be, what's wrong with this? And it would just be the picture. And we would have to email back. And we'd have to email back what the problem was with the graphic. And that's how you eventually gain confidence, even from the producer. You get their confidence of, okay, this person knows what they're doing and it's great. But yeah, it's a hard job. It's very difficult.
Extremely.
There was a recent one, I don't know what went viral, and they had the wrong face of the person.
Yes. And I know which one you're talking about because they sent it in my group chat.
Really?
Can you believe this?
All right, so run us through that, people that don't know, like how could you mess up on someone's face?
So the way that our system works. Is it coded? Yes. And so you have the tri-code of the team and you have the name of the player and you build it into our system and you give the information to the operator. And so whatever you have on the sheet, the operator is going to build. Yeah. And so unless it was in the middle of a show where you don't have time to send it back to the researcher, back to the producer, hey, is this good? Do you want this laid out different? And it's in the middle of it. Things move so fast that that's very possible.
Could it have been a code where just the code had the wrong picture, though?
That could happen, I think.
When a player moves teams, because this did happen to me. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. It happened on a hockey show. And it, of course, is at the trade deadline when we were moving players around all over the place. And so what we did was say, Dylan Larkin gets traded to the Blue Jackets. We have a code for that, but he's still in like the Red Wings folder. So if you're on the fly and you're not thinking, it still says Detroit, or you can put in the wrong name, but somehow you misspell and a different head pops up. Not even no head, because sometimes you could catch it because you would see no head.
Would you rather have no head or the wrong head?
I would personally rather have no head.
Yeah.
Because the wrong head, that's tough.
Terrible.
Yeah, and when it's a star player, like if you saw Kyrie Irving and then LeBron James' face, you're gonna be like,
you're gonna trend on Twitter.
Somebody messed up. Yes. Like now, every time I feel like I watch TV, I'm like, somebody's getting screamed at.
I do the same thing, and
it's almost like a sickness.
I know.
Like you can't even watch normal TV anymore.
I agree so much. I do it so much now. My wife does it too. She catches it. Now, she's like, somebody made a mistake, and she's like, I'm sure somebody's getting yelled at. I'm like, because she would hear me come home from work and be like, I just got yelled at.
Yep.
For
every time.
making this mistake.
So should we cut the people some slack or not?
I feel for them. I really do. But you know what? You have to be right.
She said it's a no for me, dog.
You have to be right. It's really tough. But yeah, I'd rather have no head than the wrong head. because you could say like, oh, maybe they didn't have the headshot.
Yeah.
That. Okay,
see,
we slide that.
Sometimes the folders break as well. The file pass and the folders break. Or...
So I did live tweeting for like Yes Network and stuff for like Yankee games and all that. And I mess up on spelling errors all the time, but I get to delete it real quick and then re-put it up.
But see, people will screenshot.
And
that's the thing. People will screenshot.
No, I'm too quick with it, though. I'd be checking like 5 seconds later to be delete.
You think you're on the right account, you will get caught. I promise you.
It's tough.
Have you faunted somebody like the wrong person ever? Because we had Tamark on here, and he and Tamark is a director at Bloomberg now.
Yes.
And we were talking about it when I had a font ready too early in the show. Because we were like well and early in the show, and Roland was like, we had a new director.
Okay.
And Roland was like, yeah, and I was working with this director, Roland. Let me give people context. So I'm just forgetting that. Yes. He was one of the best graphics operators I think I've ever worked with. One of the best people at their job, that I've ever worked with.
He is awesome.
And he was like, listen, we have a new director. He like might think that this font is coming up next. And I was like, I just kind of want to chill here and watch a show. And we had a very famous soccer player. We had Alan Shearer, who is the Premier League's all-time leading goal scorer. Like, literally, think, I don't want to be like LeBron James of soccer. Sure. But, literally, I mean, he's that popular.
Okay.
And so, not in terms of play style, any of that stuff, because I know soccer fans, we can get a little touchy.
Sure.
And Paulo Ferreira was, yes. And Alan, he is like an older, bald English dude. Think like British. Through and through.
Got it.
This guy, Paulo Ferreira, was also, like, we had him coming up after.
Okay.
Alan. So I'm like, all right, cool. Let me put Paulo up. Paulo is, like, your typical, like, Portuguese, like, tan, dark hair.
Yep.
Lots of hair.
Okay.
Completely different looking people.
Yep. What are you saying about him?
What do you mean?
No, just keep going.
I don't get it. So, director takes that font, and our producer, same one who, from that infamous rant that you heard, also when me getting chewed out.
Yes.
Takes it and he's like, AB, I don't know. He's like, who is that? And I said, it's Alan Shearer. And then he's like, I know that. And he said, do you notice anything wrong with that? And as I look right underneath the little thing, it says, Paulo Ferreira. And I was like, yep, I see what's wrong. And he's like, he didn't even say anything. He just shook his head, he looked me straight in the eyes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And he turned around. And I was like, oh my God.
It's almost worse getting the look.
Yes.
Than getting screamed at.
Yes.
Because the look
I would have
of
paid
disappointment.
To see AB's face getting screamed at.
It's oh man. I only heard. I can picture it, but it's like the look of disappointment as like.
Was that like the worst one you ever heard?
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Oh yeah, he ripped me apart.
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty bad. It's like you disappointed like your parent.
Yes. No, 100%.
And like you're like, oh man.
And the worst part, like, so they always tell you don't go check Twitter after.
Right.
Guess what I spent the entire night doing?
Oh,
reading tweets.
It's like they tell you don't read the comments.
Yes. Oh no, I was in the comments through and through.
I wish I knew about this live. Like I would have tweeted about it too.
It was just like
my boy AB.
We were trending that day. We started trending because of the mistake. Because Alan Shearer is one of the most popular soccer players to ever play in the Premier League.
If I search it now,
NBC fail was trending, and I was like, I am the reason my company is trending.
Oh.
Do you know how terrible that feels? It was miserable.
That
I don't honestly rather get yelled at more, like the time you heard me get yelled at,
yes, than
know that I'm the reason my company is trending. Because everybody on our company who would have clicked that trend and been like, who's the idiot who did this? And I'm sitting there, it was me. I'm sorry. Sorry.
But good publicity. No publicity is bad publicity, right?
I mean,
I don't know if they saw it that way, but it is. That is a saying.
All right, but how many years ago was this?
Oh man,
4+ years ago.
So that's what I'm saying. Low key now, I feel like they might be like, all right, cool. We just got more impressions though.
Now they might. I don't know how desperate they are for impressions, but I know it wasn't the right kind of impressions. Anyhow,
that's crazy.
Yeah, no, that one was like I said. You never forget the mistakes you make. But
100%.
So Mark gave great advice. We're not saving people's lives. You got to just move on.
Yep.
When the show is over, you forget about it. Short-term memory. You're back. You're doing another new live show.
You have to, because if you dwell on that mistake, it will ruin your entire show. Yeah. Because now you are totally thrown off. And with a very heavy lift show, with 1,000 graphics and trying to keep your own order and make sure the operators have what they have and the producer knows what you have, and you're listening to the director of what's coming up, you have to let it go. Because the minute you sit there and you think about, oh, I shouldn't have done that, you already missed another graphic.
Exactly.
And now you're 2 mistakes in. And now everybody's pissed. Because now they're screaming at you to get yourself together before it really turns bad.
Right.
But you have to just have short-term memory. Because the minute you start thinking about it, it's game over. It's game over. And it's really hard to do, especially, again, like as a young kid coming out of college. You make one mistake and you're like, I'm done. Yeah. They're going to fire me after the show. Yeah. Like, I am getting fired. I just got my first job. I started a week ago and now I'm going to get fired. And like, you have to just be okay with, you're going to make so many more mistakes. You're going to make so many more. I played the wrong music for PFT. Oh gosh, this is great. The first time after when COVID happened and the whole company shut down, I got a call, like, I don't know, a couple days later saying, we're going to start this new show, Lunch Talk Live, and Kristen needs to be able to do it, and we want to bring you in to do PFT. Is that okay? I said, sure. Love PFT. Love Sims. Love Florio. Great show. Loved working on it. And I basically trained on FaceTime from Kristen of how to do everything.
That's great.
So I had, like, my whole little setup. It was the board here, had my IP director, I had my graphics machine to the left. I ran the audio off an iPad, and I had my music behind me. And you're doing every single position. There's no A1, there's no tech manager, there's nobody. It's you and only you. And everybody else is from home. And so the first time that I did the show with music, because usually you have an A1, and at that point, they didn't have one, and so Kristen was like, it's really easy. You're just going to go off the iPad. This is the little fader right here. Great. Okay, fine. So you get used to it with, like, throwing full screens up and, slide the music. Oh, pick a new song. And, like, now you get to pick whatever you want.
Okay.
The end of the show comes, and they have a theme song that you play at the end of the show. I pick some rock and roll crazy song that... If I heard it, I'm gonna have to send you a video of the exact one. I play the song, and you can see Florio's face like, this doesn't sound like our theme music. And we're going away. Okay, I'm counting them down, and like, you have to be touching 4 buttons at the same time and whatever. And I'm like, I just need to cap the show, and 3, 2, 1, Jersey roll. Yeah. And the music keeps trailing, and I'm like, okay, we're clear. And I look up and I just look at Kristen and I'm like, that wasn't the right music. And after you can hear Florio go, did we get a new theme song? No. I'm like, oh man, no. But then after that, I never play the wrong song again.
Hey, you learn from your mistakes.
But you had to learn because you're so frantic. You're doing so many things at once. And it's in that moment where you're like, you have to focus. Because as much as you have to listen to them and go to graphics and do different things, you have to know what's coming next. And that is the most important thing that I learned, is you have to be ahead. So we can be in segment 3, but you need to know what's coming up in segment 5. Because before you know it, you're going to go to break. They already know what they're coming back with. They're going to be like, hey, for seg 5, do we have this graphic? And it's like, oh my God. I have a total of like 3 minutes and 15 seconds to hold this together. So you really have to be on your game. Yeah. But yeah, after I played that theme song, I was never again. And I never even played the song again because I had PTSD. I was like, Kristen, what number was that? I'm never touching that number again. That was it.
That was it. That's crazy. Yeah, I remember too. So I could kind of relate to you guys because I never did that type of job, but I did some programming where it was like, it was actually for Vantage Sports when Noah was here. And I had to do the programming for every day. So sometimes on the weekends I'd be like, all right, here's Saturday and Sunday already. Then like sometimes I totally like forgot to do it. And then like you go on the channel, like nothing, it's just dead air. Nothing's playing. Like I forgot to like click the button, or I might have not pressed submit. And I was just like, all right, well, nobody noticed it yet. So I just clicked it and put it back on.
Does it happen automatically? Like when you were able to?
Yeah, it was just like a live stream. It was just like, I don't know, it was cool work.
Yeah, just dead air.
Just dead air.
Fair enough.
It happens.
Yeah, it does.
It happens. And you have to just go with it.
Yeah.
You have to go with it.
I want to talk to you about internships, because obviously students here, they're probably looking to get into internships. Yes. You had 6 at NBC.
Yes, I did.
At one point in time, I think we used to joke that you were like a professional intern.
Yes, that's correct.
How is that possible?
Because I kept asking to go back. I would be like, you have an intern for next semester?
Well, why didn't they just hire you?
Because I was still full-time here for school. And I got my first internship when I was going into my senior year. Yeah. And so my first internship was Rio Olympics in 2016.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I was a runner.
Yes.
So I was like, this is going to be so fun. Like, I'm going to get to do all this. And literally all you do is like go to the production meetings, print out 47 copies of the script. And then like one of my directors would mark it up. And the way that he did it, he was like pretty old school, like pen and paper, but he was awesome. Mm-hmm. And then you'd make copies of that, and then you'd go around to the tape room, and like you'd give out all your rundowns to everybody, and then you just like sit in the back of the room and like wait for them to need something. And a normal person would be like, this is the most boring thing ever. What am I even doing here? And I sat in the back of the room, like all ready to go. And, like one girl who I was interning with was on the phone looking for apartments in the middle of a show.
What?
She was on the phone with a real estate agent, and she has her laptop propped up in the back of the room. She's having a full conversation. The show is live. And I'm like, girl, what are you doing?
That is insane.
But yeah, that was great. That was my first internship. But then after that, I went to digital, and I did my fall semester there. And after the fall was over, I had said to them, like, oh, do you have like another intern for the spring? Mm-hmm. And they were like, we've never had like an intern, stay before. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so like I stayed on for the spring. Mm-hmm. And then I skipped the summer because I went home to Jersey. And I did another one in the fall. And then in the spring, I did Pyeongchang. And I did another internship kind of with that. And then in May, once I graduated.
So like, how do you put that on your resume? Put it 6 times?
I pretty much put like production assistant, like digital production assistant, and I just put the years because at that point it was like,
they're not gonna.
You don't need to know how many. Like
they're also never
it was,
gonna.
And it was all the same, so I had the same responsibility of each semester, but it was a little difficult at first trying to figure out how I was going to put this on my resume. Plus, like, I didn't have real experience, so I was like, this is great. It's going to fill up my whole page, and I'm not going to have to worry about it. Yeah. But then once I got hired full-time, I was like, okay, I've already been here. They know. Like, I can kind of just dwindle it down a little bit with, like, the list. But, yeah, then I started in digital from there, and that was kind of it.
Rest is history.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Last question for you. What advice would you give to any students looking to break into the field, or advice you may have about doing different jobs inside of the industry?
I would say that you have to take risks and you have to be okay with learning new things. You have to know that you're not going to be good at everything. And yes, you can master a lot of stuff here at Sacred Heart, and it's great, and you can get great grades and learn all this equipment, and it's wonderful. But once you get into the real world, there are people that have 30 years of experience on you. And you have to be okay with learning a lot of new things and things that you're not going to be good at right away, which is kind of hard for me because I just like want to be good at it like right away. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time. But you also have to take risks in doing things that you wouldn't normally do. So when I decided to leave NBC and go to the Mirror, Lululemon Studio, it was a startup. At the time, and Lululemon had just acquired them, and so it was definitely a risk for me because I had a great job at NBC and I loved it. I just felt like the time had kind of come where I was ready to take the next step and do something else, and so stay within my field, but do a little bit. I was now in the fitness industry, which was something that I had never done before, and so taking that risk kind of propelled me into a different area of my career, which I never thought I would do. So I ended up, by the time I left Lululemon Studio, I had gotten promoted to manager. I had 3 direct reports under me. And so not that wouldn't have happened at NBC, but it's just a different track.
It would take a while longer.
Right, a lot longer. And so now that I'm going back to NBC, I think it's great that I'm like, hey, now I have like manager experience, and now I have this. But if I didn't take a risk and I kind of stuck with what I knew and was like, okay, I can just wait it out, you're going to be waiting forever.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with changing it up. And it's not like, it's funny because my dad always says, it's not like back in the day when everyone would stay at one company for 30 years.
Yeah.
People don't do that anymore.
No.
And so at first, of course, you're a kid when you go to NBC and you're like, I'm going to be here forever. I'm never going to leave. I'm going to do all these cool events. And you're going to do that, but you're going to have to leave at a certain point to try something else. Because again, people don't stay at the same company for 30 years. Yeah. And like taking that jump really put me in a different area where I feel like I grew even more doing that. So now coming back to NBC, I'm like, okay, now you just continue to grow in that other way, which is really great because I never saw myself doing that. And if you told me like a few years ago, like, hey, you're actually going to leave and you're going to go back, I would be like, yeah, okay, like I was good. I did everything that I wanted to do, and now I left. But now I'm like, oh, I'm back. It was like first day of school. Like you go back and you like see all your friends again, and you see everybody there, and it's great. But you have to try something new because people are uncomfortable with change, and it's something that I feel like people don't talk about a lot because they're so set in their way, and they have their schedule, and they have their job and what they do, and change is very scary. But at a certain point, push comes to shove, you're going to have to do it, and you may not like it, but you may find out that it turns it, it's great. It's great in the long run. And so you kind of have to be okay with that. But yeah, I mean, this place has set you up has set everybody up so well, and their connections and the events that they had here, which is great. But taking that jump it takes a little bit of guts, but once you do it, you're like, oh, I could do this again. Yeah. Now in 6 more months, you're gonna be like, oh, I think I want to switch jobs. Like, you never know.
I think that's a good. We were talking about money briefly. I think that's a good advice for people too, because sometimes, you're trying to get a raise, but like sometimes it's better to move to another job and get a bigger raise. 100%. And then if you go back, you can go back to the job, and then you might get another raise. Right. Or you go to another company and you get another raise that's bigger than the raise they might give you, which is like, annual 3% or something like that.
Exactly. You have to advocate for yourself because no one else is going to do it for you. The amount of times that I had gone into like a producer or our executive producer or somebody saying like, I'm doing all these things. Yeah. I need more. Yeah. I either need more responsibility, I need more money, whatever the case is, you have to do that because your mom can't call and be like, my daughter's doing so well and she really deserves this. No. Yeah. You have to be an adult and you have to go in there respectfully and say what you need. Because
use ChatGPT now.
At the end of the day, no one is going to go out of their way to say, like, you are doing such a great job.
We want to give you more money.
We want to give you all that. That's just not going to happen. And it took me a while to realize that. Until one day I finally listened to my dad, shout out Dad, and he was like, are you an idiot? You have to you're in this bubble and this is all you know. And you have to go where you are valued. Not to say that I wasn't valued at NBC because I love it so much. And obviously I'm back, so it's wonderful. But at any company, you have to advocate for your worth and your value and what you bring to the table. Because at the end of the day, you start off as a PA and you learn all these things throughout the way where at the end of year 1, year 2, you've acquired a new skill set. And so now that gives you more ammo to go back to the drawing board and say, this is where I started. This is where I am. They've given me my own show. They've let me direct. They do all these things. I need more. And when they don't, you take a jump and you leave and they give you even more when you come back. Yeah. So I've heard. So all that to say, the money in the beginning is not going to be what you think. Because when we left here and when you're in your master's program, they say, oh, you should be making this amount. It's like, I got news for you. Right. You're going to knock off a few zeros off of what you think you will be making and dumb it down to hourly. Yes. And then that is what you're going to have to budget and pay rent and live and do all these things.
And taxes.
I'm from Jersey, so I didn't have the option of moving back home, which was fine. Yeah. And you figure it out, but it's not what you think.
No.
you don't get paid what you think you deserve, especially coming out of college.
You got to live like you're a broke boy.
Correct.
Yeah. At one point, I realized I was making 50 cents more than I would if I just worked at McDonald's.
Yes. You're not wrong.
The math ain't math.
Because the amount of times where my dad has said, minimum wage at McDonald's, they're upping it.
Yeah. Oh,
it could be $20 soon.
I was like, what?
I said, Dad,
I could make a pretty good McDouble.
Like,
flip some burgers.
Right. I was like, you know what?
But it is like the trade-off of I got to do 2 Olympics. I got to go on the road with Peter King for 2 weeks and do 13 NFL training camp tours in 14 days. I went to Brett Favre's house. We did a full 3-hour interview at Brett Favre's house.
That is crazy.
We road tripped. We drove everywhere. The only flight we took was from, I think, maybe Mississippi up to Indianapolis to do more camps. And it was just an experience. And in the moment, you're not thinking about the money. You're thinking about all these cool things that you're getting to do. I went on the road with Chris Sims. We went to Buffalo. Like, you do all these great things where after you do all that, you put that in a pile and say, okay, now I did all these things. I worked really hard. Now the money comes in. But you have to be okay with that. And you have to live a certain lifestyle because Nicole wasn't going on a lot of vacations. That's for sure. Nicole didn't have a new wardrobe every other week. She had one every year. And that was even cutting it close. But it's tough. But you make it work. And at the end of the day, you get this experience. And then time flies. Yeah. You go on to new jobs and you get more money and you do all these other things. And all of a sudden, you're directing. So it really is wild, like the track that it takes you. But you got to do it.
You do.
You got to be okay just doing it. Because sometimes it's not bad when you wing it. You don't always have to have a plan. Usually, I'm a planner. But this time around, I was like, you know what? Let go, let God.
There you
Jesus,
go.
take the wheel.
That is
because I am ready for a change.
That is the way to do it. Let go, let God. Thank you all for listening. This has been another great episode of What You Doing.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes.
This is so fun. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you all. We will see you all next time.